of that our team will be acknowledged for all the hard work and success that they've had last year. Give the Michigan basketball team credit where last season was a very challenging year, as we all know, with COVID, and then playing in the Big Ten Conference, a growing backcourt that has a chance to be one of a toughest backcourt to compete against. And so I'm just happy that both are on our side.
They can really score the ball, and they attack the offensive rebound. So it's going to be a good test for us, and I'm excited to take that challenge on, especially with Moose when he goes to the 5. And he's running down the middle of the lane. He puts a lot of pressure for myself, Caleb, and all the other wings. But to be able to have an offense, have a defensive rebounder like Devontae, it gives us an offense quicker, allows us to run transition, and he's the best decision maker on our team. So that helps a lot.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon live here on this Wednesday, the 10th, opening night for the Wolverines on the hardwood. College basketball opening up last evening, getting a little taste of it. And tonight it's the real deal down in Ann Arbor as Michigan will send up a banner to the rafters. That's always a special evening for the fans and the players that were involved in that whole coaching staff, which was a part of it. We'll get to Michigan basketball right out of the gate here. We will also talk about over the next few minutes. I'll give you some thoughts midweek here on Michigan and Penn State. And we've got the recruiting to get to in the Michigan recruiting spotlight. We'll talk about the Big Ten overall and how they're looking with 5 weeks to go until the early signing period in college football. And then we'll have the memorabilia minute. Dug out an old Sports Illustrated for that. But we start with college basketball with Michigan entertaining Buffalo out of the Mid-American Conference. And I love opening nights. And if you're from this area here, you know how special it is for baseball. The Tigers have, along with Cincinnati, the best opening day rituals in all of baseball, and it's really it's like a local holiday. Opening day in baseball. College football, the way that is evolved over the last few years, where you start out, you get some Thursday games, you get the Friday game, then Saturday, Sunday, all the way to Monday. I love how it's evolved over the Labor Day weekend for college football, but that opening Saturday is great. Same thing with the NFL, and when you get to college basketball, there was a time just a few years ago they were running 24-hour games, and I liked how they kicked things off that way. But Michigan tipping it up tonight. And you know what? The thing with Michigan here is Michigan basketball, there has never been a time in the history of Michigan basketball that there have been more fans, that there's been more anticipation for a season. That's what Juwan Howard has been able to do. In a lot of ways, it is miraculous if you think about it for just a couple seconds. I remember how I felt when John Beilein said that he was going to the Cavs. That you understand that things like that can happen and coaches could leave, but it was more like because I had enjoyed so much what John Beilein had brought to Ann Arbor, and it was a surprise to me that the team was able to have as much success under Beilein and ended up being what they were under John Beilein. And then to see him go, it was just like, man, it is so hard in college sports to get that right coach. And Michigan found one in John Beilein, and it was like, man, it's gonna be a transition. And Juwan Howard, he came in. Sure, everybody thought there was a chance, and you hoped, but Juwan Howard, since he stepped up to that podium and had his tearful welcome, and just how much it meant to be coming back to Ann Arbor, and the way he has operated since he was up on that stage has been nothing short of fantastic. And I had my doubts. I remember the 12-hour period when they had Isaiah Todd and Josh Christopher, both of those guys 5-star players, and one of them had committed to Michigan and then decommitted, and the other one looked like he was earmarked to come to Ann Arbor, and then he didn't. And it was like, well, you know what? Juwan was taking these big swings, and you know what? Maybe it's not going to work out when it comes down to being able to get the big time recruits. And but there was still the reality that Michigan had the best recruiting class in the Big Ten that way. They were still going after the big fish, but they still had the best recruiting class in the Big Ten. And to sit here, I knew that it was going to work with Juwan, or they had a great chance, and they had landed a fantastic coach. Was when they went to Atlantis his first year. That was just a couple weeks into his tenure, but the way the team played there, it was everybody. I think everybody knew then, like, wow, you got something here. And then last year, if you remember last year at this time, nobody was sitting around talking about Michigan winning the Big Ten. Nobody was talking about Michigan really finishing in the top 4. They were ranked around 6 in the Big Ten. And so you would hope maybe that whatever the preseason ranking is, that you can do a little bit better than that. So maybe you're thinking that they could crack the top 4, get into the tournament, and, in his third year, that would be, or I'm sorry, in his second year, that would be, that'd be a nice goal for Michigan. Get into the tournament, maybe win a game, that kind of thing. Surprise some people. And then we know what happened. And, as Michigan opens up tonight and looks to defend the Big Ten is stacked. And now Michigan has everybody's looking up at them because they are the highest ranked team in the Big Ten. And this team that they're going to play tonight, Buffalo, coming in, looking at the rest of the schedule, if you take a quick look at it, this is going to be Michigan's toughest game on paper here as we get ready to tip it up tonight. I think this is going to be their toughest game, certainly in November. And I think it'll be their toughest game until they play North Carolina in the Big Ten ACC Challenge crossover. And that's when they have to go down to Chapel Hill. And that's not to December the 2nd. So this is Michigan's toughest game to me. As you look at it, you could say, well, what about Seton Hall out of the Big East? Seton Hall's predicted to finish somewhere in the middle of the pack in the Big East, so maybe they'll be the toughest team. What about the following week when they have to go out to Vegas and play a night game against the Runnin' Rebels out of the West Coast conference there, UNLV? They're predicted to finish in the bottom half of that league. Mountain West, I think, is what it is. I was going to say WAC, but Tarleton, who Michigan has, which I had never heard of, the college out of Texas. I was looking at them today. They're out of the WAC. So the Mountain West, UNLV is not predicted. Now, maybe both of those teams will be better, and ultimately they'll be better than Buffalo. But Buffalo has, they're in the Mid-American Conference, and there's 12 teams in the MAC. And Buffalo was picked by 11 of the 12 coaches to finish first in the Mid-American Conference. So almost unanimous. And 2 of their players are both seniors, made first team All-MAC. So they've got an experienced team that really hits the glass. Was one of the top teams scoring in the NCAA last year. Michigan, let's say they have their hands full. They're a 12.5-point favorite. But like I said, this will be their toughest test right out of the gate. And Juwan Howard, if you've listened to him over the last week or two, whenever he's had media availability, he hasn't didn't sound like he's taking Buffalo light at all. He understands the kind of team, and listening to Eli Brooks today as well, they know what kind of team they're getting and what kind of test they're going to get right out of the gate here. So it's going to be fun. I asked people yesterday their expectations for this team, and I don't put any limits on the expectations for this team, considering they got Hunter Dickinson coming back, and when you got a difference maker like Dickinson, it's a great start. Hitting the transfer portal like they did to be able to bring in, you always say, well, what's the backcourt look like? They got 2 23-year-olds in the backcourt. Eli Brooks, super senior. Devontae Jones, who comes in after being the player of the year in the Sun Belt at Coastal Carolina to run the point. That's a great backcourt. That's a great start. Not even considering what you're going to do with what's coming off the bench. But, they have a senior in Brandon Johns, who when Isaiah Livers went down with the foot injury last year, came in and was pretty good. And in fact, he was fantastic in the NCAA tournament, if you remember, against Florida State. He had 14 against the Seminoles. So I like Johns. I think is ready to explode in the lineup there. And to me, asking what the keys are, if somebody said, "What do you think the keys are for this year's team?" I think the first thing is they were so effective last year with Hunter Dickinson demanding a double team down on the post, where teams had to run players at him. What Michigan had is the 4 players on the perimeter. Is they had 4 guys that could line up and shoot it from outside, and that was huge. If you think about, I love Xavier Simpson as much as anyone. One of the things that Xavier Simpson, the bulldog, fantastic defender. When Michigan won that tournament in New York, he was fantastic. Shutting down his opposing number and anything else, but limitations beyond the arc. And last year with Mike Smith, when they're throwing it around the wing and everything else, and Mike Smith standing out there and he's wide open, and his ability to knock down that shot, that was huge. And as much as people have talked about Devontae Jones, well, he doesn't have to be a scorer. He's a pass first point guard. Well, yeah, all of those things are good. But you know what? Having Devontae Jones out there, a guy that can shoot the 3, and as it's going around, and if he's wide open and he's standing out there saying, all right, I've shot 37% from downtown. He can be a scorer. He can be one of the leading scorers. And they may have to rely on him early. But I think that's the big key, is having 4 guys that can shoot from outside, and those are your starters. And so when you look to the starters there, one of them is Caleb Houston. Now, I watched a bunch of college hoops last night, and Duke had crazy players going in there. I'm talking about freshmen coming out. They're 2 freshmen made a big impact for him, and we saw Amani Bates in there. We saw Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga, but Caleb Houston is not taking a back seat to many true freshmen that are coming in. When to talk about how they were ranked coming in, he's the top 8. He was number 8 overall. So thinking about how quickly, and this would be my second key. My first one is Dickinson being able to pass out of the double teams and then having 4 shooters out there. One of those shooters is Caleb Houston. The quicker he can be a volume 3-point shooter and a knockdown 3-point shooter, the more and better this team is going to be able to stay into the top 10, maybe get into the top 4, maybe take over as number 1 at some point, if Houston is really dialed in and can be that kind of scorer and can be that kind of shooter. It doesn't have to be just that shooter, but when you think about the loss of Isaiah Livers and really down the list, and you start taking a look at the 3-pointers, yeah, they really need Houston to be that. So that'd be my second key when it comes down to it. And then after that, it's really I like the experience that they have. When you think about Terrence Williams being able to come in on the front line, when you think about whether it's going to be Zeb Jackson or whether it's going to be the true freshman Frankie Collins, you got 1 freshman, you got 1 sophomore. And as we saw with both of those guys not available this past Friday against Wayne State, you got the other true freshman out of Grand Rapids, the lefty 6'4" Kobe Buffkin, who was sliding over there, and he was playing point guard. Being able to get that experience early on there, you're already seeing that little versatility, a deep bench. They'll have those answers there. I think the sky is the limit for this team here. Yeah, defending the Big Ten, NCAA tournament, getting in there, being one of the top seeds. And if you say, predicting a Final Four sounds a little bit crazy on November the 10th, but yeah, getting to the Final Four and being the first Big Ten team in 21, 22 years to win it all. Is that realistic? Answer it yourself. And the answer is yes, it is realistic. Okay. Well, let's see, let me look at the Wolverine Den, I did put a question out there. I want to make sure that if anybody is weighing in on my questions, I wanted to read what they had to say. And to be able to do that, I just have to click on and start reading the stories here. All right. Here we go. Yesterday, I talked about the expectations for this team, and down towards the end, people continued to answer, even after I was done. Here's Philly Sam, who's asking, what big space the floor aside from Houston can Johns reliably hit 3-pointers? I think Johns, you see him in that short corner. I think that's his best shot. I feel pretty good. Like, no, is he your first choice when you're talking about if Dickinson's down low and fires it outside to a wing? Is he the first choice that you want to? No, that's going to probably be Houston. Is he the second choice? No, that's probably going to be Brooks. Is he the third choice there? No, that's probably going to be Devontae Jones. But a fourth choice outside in the corner, Brandon Johns. I mean, yeah, I think that he can be that guy. Like I said yesterday, I think Terrence Williams can as well. Philly saying, can Devontae Jones morph into a pass-first point guard like Mike Smith did? He can, but you know what? They also need Mike Smith to score, and I think Jones can do that same thing. So I'm not tied up in him being a pass-first guy. When you're a point guard, part of what goes with that job description is you're running the team. If you need to be a scorer, well, then you score. We grew up around this area in the pros, like Isaiah Thomas coming into the Pistons in the early 80s. You know how Isaiah did it? Every game. When he first came in, he needed to score. Then he started getting players around him. It was always go inside to Buddha. Let's see what he's got. Let's swing it around. See if Joe's shooting. Maybe Lambeer's got the touch. All right, Joe's a little cold. They're bringing in the microwave. Let's see where he's at. And after all of those things, if things weren't rolling, Isaiah's like, all right, I'm going to take over. And then, he would do whatever it would take. That's the job description when it comes down to a point guard. Mike Smith did a wonderful job last year. Devontae Jones, listening to him and just watching him for a second on Friday in that exhibition, he seems like he's going to be able to fill that role. You should be really excited if you're a Michigan basketball fan about the potential and just what Devontae Jones is going to bring to the table. I was listening to Eli Brooks today talk about just what Jones brings as a rebounder and how he can ignite the break and get things going. And he's the best passer. Eli said it was. Maybe I have that sound right here. Here's what Eli Brooks had to say about Devontae Jones going up and starting the break as a rebounder.
They can really score the ball, and
that's what he had to say on Buffalo. Here it is.
Especially with Moose when he goes to the 5, and he's running down the middle of the lane. He puts a lot of pressure for myself, Caleb, and all the other wings. But to be able to have an offense, have a defensive rebounder like Devontae, it gives us an offense quicker. Allows us to run transition, and he's the best decision maker on our team. So that helps a lot.
That's Eli Brooks talking about Devontae Jones. More feedback here coming in from the Wolverine Den, talking about Michigan hoops, whether it's keys for the season or expectations for this upcoming year with Michigan. Going to tip off tonight against Buffalo, a 6:30 start on the Big Ten Network. Oregon Blue just says natty. Here's Blue Droid 3 saying Big Ten champs, Final Four. Purdue should be considered if they can compete with Michigan, not the other way around. Gonzaga, Villanova, Kansas, Texas, UCLA, all in the conversation. Michigan is loaded as any. I'm with you on that. Blue Droid 3. Here's Orson's diverse options. Absolutely can't wait for the basketball season to start. I am stoked with optimism for this season. All right. You know what? You should be stoked with optimism. I think, That's right. You shouldn't be like, I don't know. I know they lost a lot. They're bringing in a lot. And you focus on what they have here. Again, experienced backcourt. It starts then with the big man, Hunter Dickinson. I mean, not many teams that are going to be able to bring something, that Hunter's bringing to the table. A loaded freshman class that's coming in. And, I heard Eli Brooks mention Musa there. Seeing the 2 5-stars, and Caleb already discussed the expectations for him and being able to be a knockdown shooter. Musa Diabate, the sky's the limit for that guy. Watching him shoot a free throw just in the exhibition, and he's listed at 6'11", but watching Musa shoot a free throw, his just his delivery and just his whole frame and everything, he is wiry, but he looked like kind of like the form of, you'd say, that's a put together, 6'3", 6'4" shooting guard. And, he's 6'11". And the sky's the limit for that guy, too. How quickly he becomes a factor. And that's what it is with freshmen. I don't know. You saw the 2 guys from Duke last night. They were impact guys immediately. Maybe Houston, maybe Diabate will be that way immediately. And you should have great optimism for Michigan thinking about bringing those 2 guys and what they can do. And Orson says, I'm not looking for threes from Hunter Dickinson. Don't really need that. One of the biggest areas he will improve on is passing out of the doubles and not turning over the ball. No truer post has ever been written, Orson. I am right with you. Orsons, who's sending in another message. I don't really cherish the rise of UCLA, but all right, they will be up there with the national powers, no doubt. Well, look, they got Yaquez, Jaime, and they got the man who was going to work on Michigan last year and took them all the way to the Final Four. It's they got a fantastic team. So, but you don't have to worry about UCLA for another couple months. You know what I'm saying? And let's see, one more here, and it's from PMC Cray. This on the Wolverine Den, who says he expects to see my guys, Diabate and Frankie, blossom in the maize and blue by February. And then really add a nice spark to the team. Friday, we saw Diabate pull down the rebound, dribble up court, get the pass to the defender, top of the key with a dribble between his leg, and then execute his spin move to the hoop for 2 points. By February, they should be ready to add a nice spark. February. Remember, so, okay, we're talking 4 months down the line. He also expects Eli Brook to be an assassin this year, hitting big shot after big shot, clutch shot, 4 for 4 in the exhibition. He expects a few games where Houston will be in the zone and hit a barrage of 3-pointers. He's expecting T. Williams to play very well this year, be voted the most improved player on the team. That would be good. Expects to gel or be a cohesive unit around the end of January, beginning of February. Expect Johns to be solid this year. Devontae as well. Expects Purdue and Illinois to be strong. And he is expecting a tight, competitive Big Ten race. Wow. There's a lot there. If all those come through, now waiting till February, yeah, that, you know what? There's a part of that you say, wow, that's a long time to wait. But if you're going like this, is that making or you're elevating? To use Jim Harbaugh, he is a rising player. Elevating player. All right, and CJ Baird weighing in also on this post and says his biggest question this year will be what lineups Juwan Howard uses to get the best out of this team. I know it'll take a lot of experimentation early on to see what combinations work. I think outside of the starting lineup, the group of Brooks, Jones, Houston, Williams, and Diabate will be an incredibly versatile and dynamic group defensively, and I'm excited to see if this will be broken out. So let's see. You're bringing in T. Will, and then you got Diabate. Yeah, I think that they're going to do that. We still have more here. Blue blood down under. I don't know about you, but I think the basketball team may be all right this season. And he says it's going to be hard to be as good as last year, but I don't think many people realize losing Franz, it'll be really interesting how they do on the defensive end. Yeah, when you start thinking about, how, and there's a couple things, Franz, what he brought to the table last year, and then you think about just how well he's playing in the pros. It's like, how do you replace that? And that's when you're starting to talk about, well, maybe Diabate defensively. I didn't see that in the exhibition, but that's what I thought before I saw him play. Just reading about him, thinking that, he could be a force and an eraser defensively, blocking shots and going up there at 6'11" and being able to play defense. Now, his offensive game was better than I thought. Just seeing what I saw on Friday. No, I don't think he's going to run out there and be a 10-10 guy right out of the gate. But I think that you saw a lot, as the one poster pointed out, running the floor. You saw him facing up. You saw him hit the glass. I mean, you saw a lot of different things that he could do. Look, the guy was ranked, as much as Houston was ranked top 25 for Moussa Diabate last year in the Rivals 150. So, and this guy was a 5-star. So, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be too surprised that he was out there at the exhibition turning heads. Like, yeah, he's a pretty highly rated player. Pretty dynamic skill set when you're thinking about 6'11". He looks like he plays like a 6'3" guard. And the couple comparisons, well, one that I saw online of the former Michigan State 5-star, Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, and then my comparison, Epke Udo, who played at Michigan for 2 years before going to Baylor and ended up being a first-round pick. I think you take those two comps and you say, all right, you like what's going on. But, hey, I think this team, just thinking about tonight, I think this team can be a special team. I think the program right now where Juwan Howard has it in the third year, you should feel confident and you should be enjoying what he has put together. The coaching staff who has been together here from the outset, Phil Martelli coming in, and then Sadie Washington and Howard Isley and everybody else. When I hear Juwan Howard, talk about a collaborative effort and, sometimes these guys getting after each other in, some of the meetings and what they're going to do, it sounds as healthy and positive as things could possibly be. And when it comes to Juwan he's got a lot of bodies here, and him being transparent and honest with his players exactly where they're at, that is working. It's working with this team, and it's working on the recruiting trail, and it's hard pushing all the right buttons. Being able to get fantastic players, being able to scout and bring in the right player from the transfer portal. Other teams are trying to do it, and with not as much success. Juwan Howard has got the blend of the transfer portal, of the incoming players, the guys that are staying around. And, last year, it was a curveball with the pandemic. And here's Eli, coming back for a 5th year. What's not to like? That's what I'm asking you here as we sit here on opening night. What is not to like with the basketball program? You should sit back, enjoy that banner going up, and think about, what? There might be bigger banners that are going to follow that Big Ten regular season championship banner. But that one last year, that was one of the most entertaining seasons in the history of Michigan basketball. Even though they didn't win it all or go to the Final Four, they were that close to going. And what they brought during the pandemic, to me, for your entertainment bang for your buck, however you want to put it, it didn't get any better. So the fullest marks to Juwan Howard in the basketball program. I've got nothing right now to say but positive things as I look forward to tonight's game. Regarding tonight's game, after the game is over, remember it's a 6:30 start, so a little bit earlier on the Big Ten Network. I'll fire up the same machine 10 minutes after we'll go live and talk about what we saw. Brandon Justice will join me tonight, recruiting editor here at TMBR, and we'll talk hoops and we'll talk what we saw out there on the floor for the opener. So I'm ecstatic. I can't wait. I got my beak wet last night. I don't know if I've ever used that saying, but my beak was wet watching that college basketball. Michigan State, that wasn't. I wouldn't be that encouraged. Bingham, Hogarth, maybe, but that wasn't the greatest performance by Tom Izzo's crew. But looking around the rest, OSU having to score the last bucket there at the end over Akron, and IU was in a 1-point game with Eastern Michigan with 2 head coaches making their debut. Mike Woodson, who was an assistant for Larry Brown on the Pistons championship team back there in 2004. Woodson now at IU making his debut. And it was a success against a former Mid-American Conference coach and Stan Heath debuting for the Eagles last night in Bloomington. My second favorite, I've got 2 teams. I like Michigan and I like Eastern Michigan, both right here in Washtenaw County. I don't have to go very far, for the 2 teams. I only have 2, and there they are. When it comes to it's not ironic, not a coincidence. Same 2 teams I like in football, Michigan and Eastern Michigan. I don't like it when they play one another. So there it is. And last night really got us going and got the pump primed for tonight and the 6:30 start against Buffalo. Buffalo, not only is this team going to be the best one that Michigan is going to face here in November. It could be if you take out North Carolina on December the 2nd and just start looking, San Diego State. But, Nebraska got beat last night. This could be one of the best games Michigan's going to play until you start getting into the middle of December. I'm looking at South Utah or, Nebraska going, you got to go to Nebraska. I'm not too worried about that game right now. I'm not too worried about tonight's either. All right. So that's what I have to say on basketball. You might be able to tell pretty jacked about the prospects of the season, the banner going up, and actually tipping it up and watching and seeing what this new team is going to look like. For a lot of people, to be the first time if they didn't pay up or pirate that game on Friday. I paid up for that game on Friday down there at Wayne State. A couple other things that I want to get to. One, some midweek thoughts. Michigan, Penn State. Talking to a friend of mine who's a Penn State grad on what he thought about the team, and it's good to get somebody's kind of the opponent's viewpoint. And he's asking me, he's like, Michigan's really banged up. They're not the greatest passing team to begin with, but you got All Out, you got Andrell Anthony. You're talking about Corum. It's been a 1-2 punch. I said, well, Haskins, I think he's ready to shoulder the load. And I think All's coming back, maybe on Anthony. And, when you think about it, Roman Wilson, since the wrist injury, trying to get back, and you could see him feeding Roman Wilson a little bit at the end of that game. Maybe if we were talking about, if we didn't have the Michigan State game, we didn't have Anthony breaking out, I'd be talking about Roman Wilson maybe elevating himself to be a nice compliment to Cornelius Johnson. And if All hadn't been over these last 3 games being an ascending player, I think we're talking about Schoonmaker being like, man, maybe this guy's a better tight end. But you know what? And I don't know about All yet. I don't know about Anthony, but being worried about the injuries and thinking how that figures, that's going to play a big factor in this game coming up on Saturday. My opponent preview as well, my friend was saying, you know what? Penn State's got the best secondary in the Big Ten. He was pointing out that the Buckeyes didn't get a 100-yard receiver on them. I said, yeah, well, Travion Henderson ran for like 152. That's true. But good safety play and good corners there for Penn State. And in Big Ten play, you look at the numbers, they are right towards the top. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. And Michigan's going to see what they can get out of Hassan Haskins. And, of course, it's going to come down to the offensive line. But you got to make plays. You got Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State, the time whether you're taking off the training wheels or you're thinking, okay, let's protect the ball and let's not be too risk averse here because we don't want to turn the ball over. All right. But the time when you have to make some plays could be coming up this Saturday where you're going to have to force it a little bit. And I feel like, I may have missed. I thought the first one, the 30, was going to win the Michigan State game. That didn't happen. And, the defense ended up wearing out at the end. I'm coming back to this one, and I'm putting it on the offense again. I think this offense, I don't think they got to get to 30 points, but you got to get down there, and you're going to have to make plays against a really good defense. I think they can do it. And that's just where I'm sitting right here, wondering about the injuries, thinking about that game coming up on Saturday, and a tough defense in Penn State. The other thing to keep in mind is Sean Clifford. He had Penn State in a really good position to beat Iowa on the road at the time. The Hawkeyes up there, I think they were number 2 in the country. Then he got hurt. Then they lost that game. And then when Clifford came back, against Illinois, that was his first game back after injury. Did not have a great game, but he has played better since then. So you can expect a Sean Clifford, playing his best football. And I was talking with Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine, who joined me on the post game this past Saturday. Scarcelli was saying that he thought that the Penn State offense reminded him a lot of what Rutgers tries to do with their offense, yet with more talented players. And he said, you're going to look for a lot of Clifford running the ball, and he's got that in his bag there too. So something else to continue to think about this game coming up on Saturday. So those are the midweek thoughts on Penn State. Been over the basketball team. Let's get to some recruiting and then the memorabilia minute. The recruiting today, I saw that with the team rankings, Michigan a couple weeks ago, before they had the decommitment from Tayshaun Trent, they were ranked as high as 17. They lost Trent, who was a 4-star wideout, and they dropped to 18 and had 17 commitments. Today, I saw Michigan now at 19 in the rankings. So they've dropped a little bit. I don't have it right in front of me, the team that moved in front of them. So they're sitting here at 19 with 5 weeks to go. And last year, Michigan was just outside the top 10. If you ask me, am I happy with how Michigan's recruiting right now? The answer to me is no. I'm expecting them to be around the top 10. I would like the top 5. I would like a top 5 class. But, if I'm around 10, I'm not feeling that bad. Michigan's around 20 right now. Now, can I make up some ground here with the in 5 weeks? Yeah, and I'm expecting it to pull in, some big names. Can they flip somebody? Yeah. Are there 5 stars? The news about Jackson's trip to Tuscaloosa, pushing Michigan down to 3, doesn't make me feel great about that. But can they get inside the top 15? That's not going to make me ready to throw any parties in 5 weeks, but it's also not going to make me completely freak out and be like, all right, what about this young staff? And what about all these guys? They're supposed to be great recruiters and everything else. I don't know. Can you be a little bit disappointed if they, end up at 15? Maybe a little bit. Like I said, the expectations for me are a top 10 class, if not top 5. And they've had those. If you remember, last year they were 11th, and then in 19 they were 10. Then they had the wobble where they're up to 24. You don't want to see any of those. But they had back-to-back in 2017 and 2016, back-to-back classes that were ranked inside the top 5. That's when Harbaugh was out changing tires and climbing trees and, birthing calves and doing everything else. So, maybe he's going to have to get his rubber gloves on and get underneath some heifers and start milking. Get some new shoes and think about start climbing some rocks and climbing some trees, whatever it takes to be able to get some recruits. But the rest of the Big Ten, I thought it was a little bit surprising just to see how well Penn State has been doing here, because ranking right now, this is from Rivals and the team rankings. Penn State's number 4. So they got a top 5 class right now with 13 4-stars. But they've got 25 commitments. Ohio State is on their tail at number 6. Not a big surprise, but Ohio State, who was number 2. They had the number 2 class last year. They've only got 16 commitments. So they'll be big game hunting here in the next 5 weeks. And then after that, with the ability to get into the top 5 always for them. Another surprise on this, the team in front of Michigan is Michigan State. They're ranked 16 in those rankings. And again, Michigan at 19. So that's the recruiting spotlight. Tomorrow we'll take a look at a 4-star linebacker that Michigan's in good standing with, who has been a high riser here. Started out, but is another ascending recruit that Michigan's in great position for, a baseball star and a linebacker out of Illinois. All right, we get to the memorabilia minute. Now, I've got a box downstairs. I opened it up. I saw a bunch of magazines in there. I said, well, are there any that are going to be good, to show the people? And as I was going through them, I noticed that there was no, I would have thought that I'm only keeping like national, championship, Sports Illustrateds, ones that had something to do with Michigan, the teams that I like, or Detroit. And then I found this one there, and I think the whole box can actually be thrown out, but I know these are getting close to 30 years old. But here's one that people will recognize. It's got Michigan in there. Unfortunately, not one that you like, because it ended up being the championship game for the Fab Five, and you can see Eric Montross over there going up against C. Webb on the cover. But you do see right down there in the lower corner, you all know who that is, number 25. Juwan Howard. And I don't think I just pulled open the front here. I'll show you like the inside. There's some more Juwan Howard. I won't show you the timeouts or anything, but there it is on the inside. You see Coach Howard back when he was a player. And you know what? Now that this magazine, as I sit here and look at it from 93, this thing looks like it's 28 years old. So there it is, the memorabilia minute. All right, enjoy the game tonight. I'll be on 10 minutes following the game with Brandon Justice, our recruiting editor. We'll talk about everything that we see. If you want during the game, you can send a message to the Wolverine Den. We will read those. You can also jump on YouTube and make a comment right there on YouTube, and we'll read those as well. So everybody have a great day. It's another wonderful weather day out there. Enjoyed being on here. Take care, and I'll see you after the game tonight.